Hey everyone, I'm Andrea, your real life English fluency coach, and today's lesson is all about connected speech. Now, we talk about connected speech a lot because it's such an important part of understanding and learning English. Ethan made a lesson on this recently, so if you haven't seen that already, I highly recommend you check it out straight after this lesson. But in this lesson, we will be looking at some other areas of connected speech, so there's still lots here for you to learn. Connected speech can be found in all different types of English accents, even the Queen's English. But many of them do actually overlap. So we're going to take a look at some forms of connected speech today, as well as some British ones. One of the reasons why learners sometimes have trouble understanding natives is because speech is a continuous stream of sounds without clear-cut borderlines between words. In fluent speech, certain words are lost and phonemes link together as we speak and we want to get our message across. So there are 4 topics of connected speech that we are going to take a look at in today's lesson, and they are weak forms, intrusion and linking, elision and assimilation. Now don't worry if you don't understand any of these words. I think as a learner it's important to be aware of them, but you don't have to know these exact terms. Now, in case you're new here, I want to let you know that we are here to guide you beyond the classroom, to live and learn and speak English in the real world. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so that you don't miss a single one of our new lessons. So first we're going to take a look at weak forms. Now, there are many words in the English language that can have a full form or a weak form. This is because English is a stress-timed language, and so to give the phrase rhythm, we tend to swallow non-essential words. So conjunctions, pronouns, articles, and prepositions tend to get lost, causing comprehension problems for students, particularly those ones whose native language is a syllable-timed one. This happens when students expect to hear every single word clearly. So one of the crucial ways to develop your fluency is to accept the fact that English might be different to your native language. So let's take a look at some examples of words that have weak forms. One in particular is and. This word tends to get lost or get shortened very much. So for example, when we're saying fish and chips, one of Britain's very famous meals, one of their famous dishes, we don't say fish and chips, we say fish and chips. So there's an example there where and takes a weak form. The same can happen if you say a table and chair, for example. Often we will shorten that and, so it's table and chair, table and chair. So you can hear the difference there. Instead of saying table and chair, I'm saying table and chair. So it's just that n sound, and those words get connected. They merge together. So another example is the word can. So in the sentence, she can speak Spanish better than I can. There are 2 cans there. Can you hear the difference between the 2? I'll say it again and see if you can work out what it is. She can speak Spanish better than I can. Do you think you have it? So what's happening there is the first can is a weak form. So you can't really hear it as much. It's kind of getting merged with the other words in the sentence around it. But the last word there, can, I am pronouncing it clearly. She can speak Spanish better than I can. Another word that has a weak form a lot as well is of. So in the sentence, that's the last of the wine. Can you hear that there? That's the last of the wine. You just hear a v sound, so you don't really hear that word of. That's the last of the wine. I'm saying that's the last of the wine. So you can hear there where it gets connected. That's a clear example of a weak form of the word of. So our final example here is should. So in the sentence, you should have told me. You can hear there that should and have are both connected. They are both weak forms here. Instead of saying you should have told me, I'm saying you should have told me. And this is really interesting actually, because even natives make mistakes when actually writing this sentence, for example. They hear should of instead of should have. And lots of native English speakers, I know many people in the UK that mix these two up. So I often see in this sentence, I would often see someone write it as you should have told me instead of you should have told me. So even natives make this mistake, but you can learn it and you can use it correctly. By the way, if you're feeling a bit stuck in your English language journey at the moment and need that extra push, then I highly recommend our Real Life Native Immersion course. This course will take you on a 41-week journey of the English language, each week exploring a different topic connected to our goal, to help you understand and use real native English and make it a permanent part of your life in a way that is fun, natural and convenient. And the best part is you can try it right now for free with our 3-part power learning series. All you have to do is click up here or down in the description box below to learn more and sign up now. We look forward to seeing you there. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at intrusion and then linking. So intrusion actually happens usually when 2 vowel sounds are close together and another sound comes in between them to link the two together. And the intruding sounds are usually a y, a w, or So first let's take a look at the intruding y sound. So in the phrase I agree, I don't say I agree because there are 2 vowel sounds there. To link them together and to make it flow more naturally, I add in the y sound. So we would say I agree, I agree. So can you hear that? It's ever so subtle, but there is that y sound there to connect the words together. Another phrase we can take a look at is we are here. So there we have we and are. So to connect them, we have that intruding y sound again. We are here. We are here. Can you hear it? It's ever so slight, but this is very much how natives speak, to speak more naturally and to connect our words together. So next, let's take a look at the intruding w sound. So here we can see in this sentence, I want to eat. I'm pronouncing each word there clearly. However, I wouldn't do this because it sounds a bit robotic. So to be more natural, I would say, I want to eat. I want to eat. So can you hear that w sound there in to eat? I say to eat. And you will hear this not only in British speech when natives speak as well, you will also hear it in the American accent and other accents as well, I'm sure. You can also hear it in the phrase, please do it. So I don't say, please do it, please do it, please do it. So there, do and it are connected by the w sound. And what you'll find with the intruding w is that you tend to have it with an o or an u sound. So you will hear it in these kinds of words, do it, I want to eat. That's when you'll have the intruding w. Okay, so the next intruding sound is the sound. Okay, so it's an r, but the sound it makes is a And this one is quite unique to British English. You won't hear it in American English. So for example, in the TV series or the phrase law and order, we won't say law and order. It's just not natural. It takes too much effort and it breaks up the flow of speech. So there will be an intruding R there. We would say law and order, law and order. So the next one is quite interesting because when we say the word car, we don't actually pronounce that R there like they would in American English. They would say car. So you actually hear the final R sound. However, in English, we would say car. However, when it's connected to a word that then begins with a vowel, like car engine, we would connect the two together and we would pronounce that R. It would be an intruding R. So we would say car engine, car engine. So there's an example again of another intruding R. And a final example for you on this one is media attention. So we would say media attention, media attention. Can you think of some other examples where you would hear one of these three intruding sounds in a sentence? I'd love you to share them in the comments. Okay, so linking happens when a consonant sound at the end of one word actually links on to a vowel sound at the beginning of the next word. So when an object begins with a vowel sound in English, we tend not to say because it just sounds strange. Apple, it kind of breaks the flow of speech there. So the article in front of it would add an N to so it would become an. So we would have an apple. But again, we wouldn't pronounce it this way. We would connect it together to say an apple. This happens with other words as well. So for example, get on, I get on with her. We would say, I get on with her. So again, get on. That T is linking to the word on to connect them together, get on. Another example is not at all. We would say not at all, not at all. So again, it sounds like one word where it's three actually just linking together, not at all. When we speak, we want it to be natural and with efficient tongue movement, so we actually tend to weaken our articulation. Now, what happens is sometimes we weaken our articulation too much and some sounds disappear altogether. This is known as elision. And it's usually the vowels from unstressed syllables that tend to disappear first. So a common example is the schwa sound. Now, if you haven't heard of it before, you should learn about this because it is the most common sound in English for most accents, in fact. And the schwa sound is that sound that you hear a lot in words. It's not spelt this way in particular, but it is a sound that comes up a lot in many words. For example, very quickly, better. We don't say better and pronounce that ER sound at the end. It's the sound, better. That's the schwa sound. So some examples of words where the sound gets deleted, it disappears altogether are interest. So we don't say interest. That's a schwa sound there, that second syllable, interest. We say interest. And we don't say similar, we say similar, similar. So again, that's a schwa sound there, that second I sound. It's not similar, it's similar. So it gets shortened, that second sound disappears and we say similar. So in a sentence, for example, this would sound like, we have similar interests. We have similar interests. So you can hear there both of those sounds disappearing altogether in similar and interest. Some other examples are the words library and different. We tend not to pronounce them this way. We don't say library and we don't say different. We say library and different. So again, those two sounds disappear altogether. So in a sentence, you might hear this as, I went to a different library today. I went to a different library today. With consonants, it's usually the T and the D sounds that disappear altogether, and usually when they are in a consonant cluster. So that's when there are many consonants together. For example, in the word Christmas. There you cannot hear that T sound there in between the S and the M. So we say Christmas, not Christmas, Christmas. The same with the word sandwich. We don't say sandwich, we say sandwich. So that D as well disappears altogether in between the N and the W. We say sandwich. This can also happen across word boundaries. So for example, we wouldn't say next door. That's just too much. It's not efficient tongue movement. So we say next door. So that T disappears from the end of next and the words combine together. So not next door. It's just too much work and we tend to be lazy with our speech. We just want to be efficient and natural. So we say next door. And also with the phrase must be, again, that T disappears, must be, must be. We don't say must be, we say must be. It's also important to quickly note that the H at the beginning of words tends to get lost as well. It does tend to disappear in many accents across Britain, but also in America and maybe in other countries as well where English is spoken. So for example, instead of saying tell him, some people might say tell him, tell him. So again there, that H disappears, the H sound completely disappears, and we connect the two words together. And also in another example, for example, you shouldn't have, we would say you shouldn't have, or you shouldn't have. So again, that H sound disappears altogether. Just a very quick note here of another topic of connected speech that is called ellipsis. And this is when a word is omitted just to simplify the sentence, but not to change the meaning. So for example, if someone says to you, "What's the matter?" and you want to tell them, "I've got a headache," you might actually just eliminate the I've or the I have and just say, "Got a headache." So instead of saying, "I've got a headache," you might just say, "Got a headache." Another example could be if someone says, "What time will we get there?" and you want to reply, "I'm not sure," you might just completely eliminate the I'm there and just say, "Not sure," which is completely fine as well. It just simplifies your response without changing the meaning. That's really important here. And finally, many people, instead of saying, "Do you want to go out and eat?" or "Do you want to have a meal together?" you might even say, "Want to have a meal together?" So you completely leave out that do, the start of the sentence there. And again, this is very natural and a way that natives speak. If you'd like to learn more about this topic and how to speak English fast and also understand fast-speaking natives, then I highly recommend you check out this lesson we made exactly for that. So you can click up here or down in the description box below to watch that lesson next. So finally, we are going to look at assimilation. And this happens where sounds in different words change just to make the flow of speech more natural. So for example, instead of saying she's a good girl, we would say she's a good girl. Can you hear that there? So if you listen very carefully, I will say it again. We don't say she's a good girl because it's just too much work for our tongue. We would say she's a good girl. She's a good girl. Good girl. Good girl. So you can hear there the D is actually changing to a G sound to match the next letter in the next word. So we don't say good girl, we tend to say good girl, good girl, and that connects the two together as well. We could see the same example in he's a good boy. So instead of saying he's a good boy, we would say he's a good boy, he's a good boy. Good boy, good boy. So again, that D, the D sound completely disappears, or in fact, it changes to a B sound to join on to the next word. Another classic example is white paper. So we tend not to say, I use white paper, because again, there's just too much going on there. It's too much work. So we would say, I use white paper, white paper. So it sounds a little bit like I'm saying wipe paper. If you wipe something down, for example, if you're cleaning a table, you would wipe the table. But I'm not. I'm saying white paper. But to make it more efficient, to sound more natural, instead of saying I use white paper, I'm saying I use white paper. And this is called assimilation. Okay, so there was quite a lot of information in that lesson. I hope you found it useful and that you can start practicing these things. Remember to leave a comment down below if you have thought of a sentence where you hear an intruding sound, because I'd love to hear what you come up with. And I will see you guys in the next lesson. Take care. Put the sentence together, but they are not stressed. What we can also do, aside from content and function words, is if we really want to emphasize a word, we might just say it louder. So there's an example for you. When we speak, we tend to stress certain words that we really want to emphasize, and that's important to note as well. So my next tip is to learn and ignore